Okay, guys, so what's going on here? So, you guys know that I'm making another 3.3, well, another homemade connecting rod for a 3.3, which is currently disassembled at the moment, just so I can take some measurements from the crank. There's the piston and connecting rod if you guys wanted to see that for fun. I did trace out the old rod out of another engine here, and I think I mentioned this before. You guys can see, maybe not super well, but you look at the groove on that rod, see how it kind of stops short. And if you look, the lubrication hole on the top. When we look at the old rod, or sorry, the new rod, you see the lubrication holes in the bottom. A nice big deep machine groove on both sides. It goes right up to the pin bore, almost right into it. That's why these rods are so fucking weak. Anyways, aside from that, so what we did was we grabbed our piece of 7075. People asked if I was going to use 6061, and I thought about it, but it's often soft, or too soft from what I understand. I've never tried it, but I might do that with just maybe get like a China engine or something like that. If I blow it up, it's not a big deal. But, so we get our holes drilled, finish honed. That one's just got some schmutz in it, as you can see. It looks horrible, but it's actually not. And nice tight fit for the crank. Nice tight fit for the piston pin. So those are done. So there's one rod, so I got to take and file that and grind it and sand it and smash it and bash it and whatever else. I know my scribe marks look horrible. I lost my scribe, so I took a triangulated file and turned it into a scribe with a grinder. So I'm kind of working with what I got here. But you guys get the general idea. I mean, yeah, I can see my scribe lines underneath the ink here. I just used a felt pen for that. And then I got this guy. So what I did, and my other reamer didn't come in, unfortunately, yet. So that's not a big deal. It was the wrong size anyways. It is, I drilled the holes undersized using standard drill bits. And then what I'm going to do is finish hone to size like I did with a Pro 15 rod. I also drilled these slightly under as well. That way there is room for error, because if you over drill it and it's too loose, well, kind of defeats the purpose. So I'd rather have it just a little undersized and then just finish hone it like you were doing a cylinder for a car or something, you know, or a motorcycle engine. They're bored slightly under, finish hone to size to get the perfect fit and finish. And for finish, we are going with, I think this is 2000. I have some 2500. I just got to go pick it up from the store. But the 2000 seems to be fine. That's what I did with a Pro 15. I haven't had any issues yet. And I have almost half a gallon on it. Trouble free. I did pull it apart last tank. And there's no slop at all. People ask, am I going to get a drill press? Yes, when I have the cash. Mill, when I have the cash. Am I going to put bronze bearings in, or bushings in, like the factory rod? Of course, when I have the cash. All comes down to that cheddar. But a lot of people said, oh, you know, could I use copper or something in copper? Well, I mean, it work hardens, right? So you're going to watch that, and it's, I mean, I assume it would probably work. I don't know what exactly how it would last or how long it would last for. People said, what about brass? Brass does make a good bearing material to a point, although it's kind of gummy and I don't know how well it wets, meaning holding oil, or if it repels it or whatever. So I'm going to be using a piece of phosphor bronze, which I believe this is in here. And I'm going to be putting a phosphor bronze bushing in here and one in there. Not on these two rods, but I'm going to make, well, I have a whole sheet of connecting rods. I just got to cut them out. So when I get all that equipment and I can find myself a piece of phosphor bronze that isn't 12 feet long and $800, I will order it or find it somewhere and try and undersize drill and then press fit and then drill it out to the final size and finish on it. Probably sweat it in, meaning freeze the bronze, heat this. This is going to be undersized. So kind of like how with engine bearings, like in this 3.3 block, if you try to put them in at the same temperature, they won't go in. Like you'll have to almost hammer them in, or unless you have that tool guy that sucks the bearings in and whatever else. That's why you got to heat the block to get the bearings in and out oftentimes. So that's what's going to happen. Is this is going to be heated. The bronze is going to be frozen, and it's going to be pressed together with some Loctite 603, some retaining compound in there. And it'll be freaking L strong when there's no way in hell that's going to come out of there ever again. And then, of course, nipped, flat, sanded, and then drilled to the correct undersize, and then again finish honed, and then with an oil hole and another oil hole. If we look at a 3.3 rod, there's one oil hole right there, and the other, it might be clogged. I think it's right there. Is it there? I think it's on this side, right? It's just clogged up with shit, so it's in there. I don't like it there. Personally, I don't really think it's a really good option where if you look at how this engine is, well, most any engines, I don't have a light here, do I? Oh, yes, I do. Of course, magnetic's got everything in the world stuck to it. So if we look where the connecting rod swings in that channel, let me see if I can grab a scribe or something so I can point it out for you. So you can see where the rod swings in this channel here, right? There's often fuel and oil pooled in here while the engine's running. So my idea is, instead of having the hole drilled, oh, for fuck's sakes, where the hell did that go? Great. I'll look for it later. So instead of having the oil hole up here, and we put the oil hole right there, when the rod swings around, and that, come on, stand up and pay attention. So when the rod swings around, there's that oil and fuel sitting here. So my idea is that it's going to push that fuel or that oil up into that oil hole, kind of like almost hydraulically pushes it in. That's my idea. I noticed that some airplane engines, like my large displacement 4-strokes, actually have 2 oil holes. There'll be one here, and then it'll be the same in the top. So that's my idea. But like I was saying with the Traxxas rod, they oil hole here, and then they put with the new rod, they put it underneath. So that section of top pin bore is very, very thinned out. And if I had that wrist pin here, which, oh, sitting on it, lucky. You guys can see how friggin' thin those things are. I don't really like that idea too much, so I'm going to see about maybe making a new one. Some people said, well, you know, try a piece of tool steel. Well, the problem is tool steel it's nice and hard, but it's also brittle. So my thought is it might snap. I doubt it because I don't think this engine could make enough power to snap a piece of tool steel. What I might do is grab some and then maybe anneal it just a little bit just to take some of the hardness out so it's a little more ductile, and then run with that. Now my next concern to that is adding more weight. I mean, there wouldn't be that much there, but maybe even hollow it out. We'll see. Is the knuckles inside that piston right there, the pin bores, aren't super thick in these 3.3 pistons. They're pretty thin, so a lot of people said, well, maybe with a heavier rod, you know, that might be extra stress. Well, I'm not going to make it much heavier. I'm just going to make it kind of thicker where it's needed. Kind of more like this. If we look at this Pro 15 rod, minus this big slot, so let's turn that over to forget that. Kind of, you see how this Pro 15 rod, the short one, in the top, it's got a lot more meat, a lot more girth to it there, where you see how thin, where we point here, there we go. You see how thin it is up in here. So these old rods did last a lot longer. They didn't often split down the middle, but what happened is when they got a lot of slop in them, right, the piston pin will start to hammer up and down, and it used to blow the top of the rod out. But since they changed it, and they drilled that hole there and put those big grooves in the center, it made them weaker here, so then they split down the center when they get old. So that's why you got to change out your rods every few gallons of 3.3 to keep that from happening. So my idea is to kind of copy this design here and kind of go a little fatter up in here in that radius. Just go a little thicker, a little bit more shoulder on the sides, and hopefully that will prevent that. And again, we're going to be running straight aluminum to steel with oil holes or slotting and chamfering. So as you can see here, this Pro 15 rod, they don't have that chamfer there. I put that in myself. And also Pro 15s do not have an oil hole in the top. This one's grossly over drilled, but that's fine. That doesn't really matter. But that chamfer will help to hold a little bit of that fuel and oil there. And that will allow some fuel and oil up in that wrist pin, kind of keep it lubricated better, make it last longer. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. Some people asked if I would drill one underneath and one in the top. Well, I might try that on another one and see how it goes. But as far as that goes, yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Just thought I'd share that with you guys, kind of what's going on here. And I was going to try and film this, but it's just absolutely freaking tedious as hell trying to do that. And then, of course, like I said, I got to get in here and hacksaw this in half, then cut these out, and then I took a bite out of that one. I mean, it didn't taste all that great, but now I know for next time. I'm going to go to the dentist. It's going to take and file these out, then I'm going to get the thickness right, because this is 6 millimeter thick, so it's quite thick compared to the original rod. As you can see, the original rod is 5 millimeters. Well, it's just about 6 at the top, and it's 5 at the bottom. So that's why I want a little bit of thick on the plate here, so I got some extra room to work with. Because if you go too thin, well, you know, it's better a little bit too much than not enough, and we can kind of work with it. Anyways, guys, as always, thanks for watching. There will be more updates soon. Take it easy. Keep on burning nitro out there.